I'm good as well too.
Cool. Okay, and I will reset the microphone here after every question. But first question, and whoever wants to take it first, but both of you, 2 answers to this question. What is your key issue in the 2020 election? And then what issue, if you have to pick from a list of them, which issue is the least important? Other people might consider to be something that you would say is not actually a priority.
Want to go first?
Yeah. Sure. So I think one of the issues in Seven Everything that I think is the most important would be gun control. I think, though, I am in favor of universal background checks, but I am very much against red flag laws. Issue in Seven Everything that I think is the least important. I'm kind of stumped on that because I think like a lot of the issues I hear are important. So like I think like I wouldn't want to minimize any issue, but
like let's just say, not that you're president, but the president has 10 hours in the day and there's 11 issues each one can get. Like what's, not that it's not important, but that's the least pressing or the least prioritized, needs to be prioritized.
yeah, man, I'm stumped. I like, you know, because I think they're all the issues that come to mind like are important to me. I think like, you know, from anything from the environment to anything, I couldn't say like, you know, that it's less important than gun control. I'm really stumped at like what would be a issue that isn't important.
You want me to give you mine too?
Yeah.
I guess speaking on behalf of like humankind, I think climate has to be like the #1 issue. Speaking for me personally, it's probably not. If I'm just being like a selfish human, I think the most pressing things for me are probably around racial justice. Like the question I asked Beto O'Rourke when I met him was like, I don't really care who the next president is if I can't live to see that president. And that's kind of what it feels like right now. Is like every time I leave my house, I'm looking over my shoulder, and whether that's for made up threats that the right is talking about or very pressing ones that they are bringing to my front door, that tends to be the feeling. I think I agree with you. Gun control is definitely up there for me. There's a lot of other ones that are up there that are a bit more complicated. As far as the ones that are a little less pressing, in my opinion, for me, definitely foreign policy in general. Not to say that I'm some sort of like American nationalist, but definitely, there's enough to worry about right now at home. I'm very much focused on that. The global issues we should focus on aren't necessarily foreign policy issues. They're things like climate. And so kind of looking at it in that scape, I think everybody's going to be a vast improvement over Donald Trump on like the international stage, and it's going to be the biggest recovery effort. But that's probably my lowest priority. I think anyone but him is going to be a step in the right direction, and that's what I care least about.
If you can elaborate on, so if you would consider yourself left of center, would you also, if foreign policy is the least of your concerns in that regard, would you say that you not trend towards isolationism, but that far? Do you move toward that side of the spectrum at least?
No, not whatsoever. I'd say I'm closer to a globalist, if anything. But I guess my view on it's like America. I was saying before we got on air, like my favorite part about America is the diversity of not just of like its people, but its landscape, but its culture and all these different things. No matter how you view the current state of the world, like whether it's climate, whether it's like the rise of right-wing populism across the planet, like there are a lot of threats that are happening right now, and almost all of them end with some sort of mass migration to some central locations. America is one of the few places with all of the resources and enough diversity to support a massive influx of people, and that can only happen if we build up our actual country at home. And still, again, like on the foreign policy front, do we need to be kinder to other countries and like live our values abroad? Oh, for sure. Have we ever done that? No, not really. So am I going to be like that worried if the next president doesn't? Like, sorry, man. Like I like you said, I can only care about 10 out of 11 things, and the 11th is the people who are furthest away from you right now. Like, I'm happy to try and build a country to get you here to live a better life here, but I'm probably going to be ignorant of what's happening in your country until you get here for the time being, because my country's on fire.
Interesting. So with that being both of your standpoint on prioritizing the spectrum of issues, who is, if you had to vote tomorrow in the general election, who is the candidate you're most likely to vote for, and who's the candidate you're least likely? So, considering the right-wing field is much smaller than the left, obviously, all candidates are on the table. Who are you the most excited to go out and vote for, and the absolute least?
Donald Trump would be my number one choice. The second choice would be, I guess, the person I'd least likely to vote for.
Long drink of water after that.
The person I'd least likely to vote for, Joe Biden.
That's fair. Sorry, that threw me off.
We want both sides.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I knew you were opposite side. I didn't know we had for. Listen, man, I almost voted for Kasich because I'm not like opposed to the other side. Shit. Okay, well, this will get fun. It's tough for me because my heart wants to say Bernie Sanders. I voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016. I agree with a lot of his view on the assessment of the problem. I don't know that I necessarily agree with his assessment of how to solve the problem, or that like he can carry out the generational change that I want to see kind of like move the country forward. I'd say with that understanding, I would probably vote for either Pete or Beto, but my heart wants to vote for either Warren or Bernie. I think the age factor is very real for me, and I think one of the issues for Democrats for a long time now has been like we've played short games. So we've won single elections, we've had good 4-year terms, and we've given back all of those gains and then some in some effort of like political expediency. And I would like to get away from that. And so if we can elect like a 47-year-old president, or better yet, a 37-year-old president, and we can have like a descendanship of leadership to move forward from, I'd be a little happier with that. I'm willing to give up a little of what Bernie or Liz might give.
Interesting.
I should know that I applied to work for all 4 of those campaigns, so like I'm on board with all 4.
And you both seem to have somewhat of a consensus about Biden. What is that inspired by?
I'd love to hear your opinion, because like personally, Biden's like the only Democrat I wouldn't vote for. If Biden's the nominee, I wouldn't vote for.
He's the author of the 1994 crime bill, like and stuff and everything. I feel like that's something that has definitely hurt my community. And I don't believe and stuff liberals like care about black people. I'm not saying that conservatives do anymore, but I feel their policies don't necessarily hurt our communities so that's why I'm voting for Trump. So.
Which specific policies?
I think they create policies and stuff that create government dependence. They create a welfare state. If you look at like programs and stuff and everything like Section 8, they become generational. Food stamps and stuff and everything, they're not created to get people off of these programs and stuff. They end up being staying on these programs and having children who are relying on these programs. So you have to look at
has to do with how they fund those programs and how like the deterioration of the funding after those got institutionalized, most under Republican leadership.
I mean, I think and stuff, cities for instance, like Chicago and stuff, that's where I'm from. It's a Democratic, ran leadership. They've had and stuff, Democratic leadership for as long as I've been alive.
Well, yeah, but if you have federal Democratic leadership backing them, that should be right federal. There's not much to do at the local level.
I mean, I don't think there's a problem with the funding of the programs. As far as I know, if you could show me and stuff research wise, but these programs are well funded and stuff and everything, and they're created pretty much and stuff and everything in the African American community to keep
what programs are we talking about? Just so we're clear.
Section 8,
okay.
Food stamps.
Why was Section 8 necessary? What's your opinion on that?
Why is it necessary?
Why was it a good idea to find? Why did that get passed? Wasn't Section 8 in response to redlining, which was led by the right wing, to essentially exclude black home ownership, and then because we were already impoverished, we needed Section 8 to get to home ownership?
I understand what you're...
Not home ownership, rather, but just housing?
I understand your point about that, okay. But like my point is like you know what I mean and stuff and everything, the policies of these particular programs and stuff and everything, and how they like you know what I mean exclude like you know what I mean and stuff and everything, like the father from being in the home. So like you know what I mean and stuff is creating. If you're a woman and you apply for Section 8, like you know what I mean and stuff and everything, and you're not allowing like you know what I'm saying, you cannot add like you know what I'm saying a father to like you know what I'm saying your voucher. Like you know what I mean and stuff and everything. So like you know what I mean, it's basically giving you a benefit, like you know what I mean and stuff to keep, like you know what I'm saying and stuff and everything, like you know a male father like out of like you know what I'm saying the home. That's the same thing for food stamps. Like you know what I mean and stuff, they give like you know what I mean and stuff and everything, food stamps and stuff to women to basically exclude fathers from being like you know what I mean in the home. And these are like
you said men can't get food stamps?
Like you know what I mean and stuff. Yeah, men can get food stamps and stuff.
Single mothers obviously get an additional benefit over like two-parent households because there's an assumed second income. But is that irrational to you? Like
it's not necessarily irrational, but like you know what I mean and stuff and everything, it's the way it's done. It's basically like you know what I mean. Why isn't there like you know what I mean and stuff and everything in the Democratic Party like more of an emphasis on like you know what I mean and stuff helping families? Like you know what I mean and stuff and everything. That's like my issue with it, because like I feel like you were saying these programs and stuff exclude like you know families. If like let's say like you know what I mean and stuff and everything.
Universal pre-K exclude families.
I didn't say anything about
other people are raising your kids. I'm just trying to understand.
Universal. Well, like you know what I mean. Speaking specifically
universal
about
pre-K seems like that helps all families, most specifically impoverished ones.
I'm not sure. Like you're saying and stuff, everything like about like a universal pre-K. Yeah, like you know what I mean and stuff, everything. I don't have a concern necessarily with universal pre-K. Like you know what I mean. You're talking about like that's one like but I said specifically about food programs.
Okay.
The food stamps, Section 8. Even like you know, there's other programs that I would take issue with that had like.
So let's take Section 8. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
So looking at Section 8, you take something like Pete Buttigieg, who part of his Douglas plan for Black America is essentially a pathway from like home like rent vouchers and like subsidized rent into Black home ownership. An influx of investment into first-time home buyer programs, lowering the amount you need as far as a down payment, getting more Black homeowners essentially out of like rent situations where rents are increasing, getting them in situations where they can invest and buy homes in those same communities. What about that is like bad for the Black community?
I mean, I think like you know what I mean. There's nothing bad like you know what I'm saying necessarily about home ownership. Like, you know, and stuff and everything. I'm talking about, like, you know, the programs and stuff and everything that are in place, like, you know what I'm saying?
But you're talking about programs that have been in place for, like, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. I understand that. I'm talking about the upcoming election. Like, most of the people running on the left are running to revamp or get rid of most of those programs, right? Like, you look at education, right? Like, we took public education, had a heavy investment in it back in, like, the 50s and 60s, pretty much divested from it throughout the 70s, throughout to the 2000s. George Bush did some finger waving at it and said we were going to leave no child left behind. And we cut funding year after year after year for that, right? Then under the Obama administration, we had a slow climb back, but we were also living through a recession. And so it didn't have much movement. And now our schools are worse off than they've been in 50 years, right? And most of that is just a decline in investment and a decline in people giving a shit, right? And Trump, I think we can agree, Betsy DeVos is not a great secretary of education, right?
I'll agree with you on that.
And like, there's not a lot of emphasis on public education, and a lot of it is going to charter schools that are privatized and just taking money out of our communities. So if what you care about is like Black kids having a good quality public education available to them, right? Then why would you be voting against that?
I don't feel that I'm voting against that. Like, you know what I mean? And stuff.
You're voting
I think
power.
Well, like, you know what I mean? And stuff, that's just one side of the issue, though. But, like, also, like, you know what I mean? And stuff, everything, I feel like the Republican policies create jobs and stuff, everything for our communities. And also, like, you know what I mean? And stuff, everything.
Which policies? We keep jumping around with vague policies. Because we broke down Section 8 is not as ghastly as you make it out to be. It's mostly getting
No, I think it is pretty bad. It's generational. These programs are generational. Do you know anybody personally on Section 8?
I know a lot of people who've been on Section 8 at various points.
Like, you know,
currently right to that.
I know people and stuff and everything, and they've been on Section 8, like you and me and stuff and everything for a lifetime, as long as I've been alive, right? Like you and me and stuff and everything. Like, so, like, obviously, like you and me and stuff and everything, if they've been on Section 8 since I was born in 1982, and they're still on Section 8 today, like you and me, what does that tell you about that program?
That's probably a bad program. It needs a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. And like you and me and stuff and everything.
What's Ben Carson doing about that for you?
I mean, like you know what I mean and stuff and everything. Like,
I just laid out to you several alternatives that people want to take care of housing in a bigger and better way, And you're telling me you want to vote against that for what? Tell me what Ben Carson's
Because
doing.
I feel like you and me and stuff, everything that the Trump is creating job opportunities in America. Like their job policy,
That's solving Section 8?
yes, because if there's jobs in our communities that people don't have to rely on the government for these programs. If there's
Sure
jobs,
do if the job pays $11 an hour and the cost of housing is on through the roof. That doesn't, like, having a job doesn't solve for everything, my man. You've had jobs, right?
yeah, I understand.
Me too. I've had quote unquote good jobs with lots of paid time off and great benefits and decent money. And I'm still broke as fuck. I'm still in student debt. And I still couldn't afford a house if I wanted to if my girlfriend didn't make way more money than I did. So like a job at not a lot of money doesn't get you very far, especially if you're paying into rent, you're paying into your bills, you're paying into healthcare costs, all of which are rising exponentially against wages. So like, sure, yeah, he's probably getting more jobs into the economy and the gig economy and minimum wage jobs. Awesome. All of these jobs that'll be automated away in the next 15 years. But what's that actually doing for you? Besides like putting some money in your pocket that you can like walk down the street and like feel a little bit better because it's payday today and then go back to your job that you hate for another 6 days. Like, what's positive about that?
I mean, you're saying like, I think like, I think like obviously that having a job like you and me and stuff and everything is necessary in the economy. Like you and me and stuff and everything. If you have a job like you and me, you have the opportunity to control your destiny. If you like,
I would argue the exact opposite.
I disagree. I think like you and me and stuff and
If
everything.
you have a
like
job, you work for somebody else, and you sign up to adhere to their rules and their point of view, and like what they want you to do and what they're willing to pay you to do, and sign up for them to then revoke your ability to live that lifestyle, your income, anytime they want to, based on their opinion of you. What is free about that? Freedom is working for yourself.
That's true.
Freedom is independence.
But also, like you and me and stuff, there's
freedom comes with home ownership and equity and credit.
I mean, like I think like you and me and stuff, like home ownership, people like you and me and stuff lose their homes all the time. Like you and me and stuff, like if you give somebody a home, like you and saying, what's to say that they're going to keep it? Like you and me and stuff, if they can't, like you're saying and stuff, everything, like yeah, you're not for jobs. So like these people have homes and stuff, everything.
I'm happy people have jobs. I want everybody to have a job if they want a job.
I just don't. Going back to you, so you were trying to say what the job creations, right? Right. No, can you
there's the Trump administration is creating jobs like you and me and stuff, everything. Unemployment rate is at the lowest that it's ever been historically for African Americans. Is at the lowest that it's ever been for Latinos. Is at the highest wages and stuff, everything for African American men.
All like those things are turning in that direction before Trump took office. I just want to make that clear.
That's true. It was going like you and me and stuff, everything in a downward direction and stuff, everything. But like you and me, it's continued. Yeah. It's continued through his presidency. So like I mean, and stuff, everything you could say like I feel that Trump has done like a lot for the African American community. Like you and me, more so than any other president in my lifetime. And stuff, everything with his policies. You're laughing, but it's the truth. I can point to like specific policies. He's given like I'm saying and stuff the largest amount of money to HBCUs, like you and me and stuff, everything like that's one thing right there.
Okay.
Like like you and me and stuff, everything like as far as the job creation and stuff, everything like his stance on illegal immigration, because illegal immigration hurts African American communities the most.
So I just want to be clear, throwing some money at some HBCUs, creating minimum wage jobs and continuing a trend that was already in place before he took office, and raging xenophobia to try and kick people who don't look like us out of the country. Those are the three most positive things for Black people.
It's not that you're raging xenophobia. It's people who are coming to this country illegally every day. There's 40,000 people every day coming across. That's enough to start a small town, like that are coming.
40,000 people a day?
Yeah, it's 40,000 people a day, according to the Homeland Security statistics. So like you and me and stuff, every day, that's enough people that could start a town that are coming here every day illegally, like you and me and stuff and everything. And the Democratic Party, all that they want to do is like you and me and stuff, give them citizenship. Like you and me and stuff and everything, allow them and stuff and everything to take the jobs, allow them like you and me and stuff and everything to take these programs that don't work, such as Section 8 food stamps, and like you and me and stuff and everything, like, make it difficult for our community.
To button up this question just with the, despite the differences, you expressed, Tulsi Gabbard, that there's some affinity there in regards to reaching across the aisle, in your opinion. And then on your side, Kasich, what would...
I'll fuck with Gabbard too.
Okay. What would the other, not that you are, diehard liberal and conservative, toe the party line, but what would the other side have to do to earn your vote in regards to what you've already expressed and then also your key issues? What would...
Like in 2020 or just in general?
In general, with where both platforms stand in 2019, if they were to shift in 2020, where would they have to shift to get your vote? No matter how unrealistic, like what?
Okay.
What
yeah, that's fair. Because I was gonna say I don't know that this that shift is realistic and all, but I guess looking at like I'm sympathetic to a lot of right-leaning views when it comes to things like free speech, when it comes to things like opportunity. I guess like some libertarian-esque values. So like Andrew Yang to me isn't a Democrat. I have no idea why he's running the Democratic primary. But I like Andrew Yang. Like he's fine. Is Andrew Yang like my top choice? No, but he represents the kind of like libertarian outlook on life and willingness to kind of like admit that he either doesn't know or doesn't care about some of the other things that I do. Not that I'm super behind that, but I'm willing to listen to candidates. And so I guess that's what makes Tulsi Gabbard interesting to me. Is like I like that Tulsi Gabbard's anti-war. I like that Tulsi Gabbard generally has a pretty progressive view on economics that is also rooted in like some pragmatism. Do I love like some of her like hateful like homophobic comments of the past? No. Do I believe like fully in my heart that she has like evolved on the issue? Don't know. I don't know the woman, probably not. But like she's taking all the right steps and she's pretty much like admitted like, hey, I'm not going to touch this one. And like I'm okay with that. So long as you're willing to come around on some of those issues, whether that's like things like gay marriage and queer rights, or whether that's things like gun control, where it's like, hey, like, listen, we'll do background checks for now, and then like we'll table this for the next 4 years. Like, but I'm not saying that's a solution I want, but if I like the rest of your platform, like I can come around on some of those things. I'm with you, for instance, like I'm against red flag laws. Like I think the idea of red flag laws is ludicrous. Like the government's just gonna have a list of people who's allowed to be armed or not. How's that gonna go?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, that's not good for anybody.
I think like red flag laws and some everything sound very Orwellian to me, and yes. I think like is open to like stuff being abused because like and some everything like what if you have guns and stuff and everything and you just get into an altercation with someone and stuff, someone will just like be able to call and say like and stuff and everything and get your guns taken away. And I think like and stuff and everything. That's why I'm not in agreement with them. I think that I like Tulsi Gabbard because of her anti-war stance and like wanting to get us out of these regime wars and being a veteran and stuff and everything. And there's some things and stuff and everything that I don't agree with her, like about like such like she wants to put a tax on buying individual stocks. Like I'm not in agreement with that at all. Like for every purchase, like let's say like if you I don't know if you participate in like the stock market, but if you buy a stock, she wants to put like a small like stuff tax, and I'm not in agreement with that.
You okay with sales tax?
Huh?
You okay with sales tax?
It's
the same concept. You buy something, you pay tax on it.
But like and stuff, I think like and stuff and everything like they're number one like and stuff. There's already a tax. It's called the capital gains tax and stuff and everything like
there's a few lower than income tax.
But if you also like if you
let's pick Apple gains for the first time this year. Thanks Trump. By the way, like if you're talking about things Trump did well, like I appreciate that.
But if you buy like and stuff and everything a stock like there's no guarantee like and stuff that is going to appreciate or no guarantee that like
you pay sales tax on a car never appreciates.
Like and stuff and everything. Car it depreciates, yeah. But like I think like
obviously depreciates.
I just like I'm not in agreement with. I don't agree with that. Like and stuff and everything. Like because I think like that it's not necessary and it's going after people and stuff and everything. Just like trying to invest. Like it's to me it doesn't make sense. Like I understand like what you're saying and stuff and everything. Like as far as like there's taxes on other things and stuff and everything. Like if you buy water somewhere. Like and stuff and everything, there's a tax, but like I don't agree with that.
So, like, but let's you mentioned capital gains, right? Like Trump took capital gains down from 20 to 12%, right? So if she implements what was it, 3% or 4% tax, I think she was talking about on transactions, then like really you're still 3% lower, 2% lower, depending on what the number ends up being than we were at just 3-4 years ago. you've actually lowered the amount that you're going to pay on stocks. You're just paying a little bit more upfront to take the risk than you are on the back end to cash that.
I don't know. Like, man, I'm not in agreement with it. Like, I think, like,
going back to the question was, what would it take to get, come to the middle, right?
Yeah, or across the aisle, vote for liberal, basically, or Democrat.
What can we do for you, baby? Come on over. Open on.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I like Andrew Yang a lot. Like, and stuff and everything. And it's a lot of the Democratic candidates and stuff and everything that I like. Like, certain policies that they have. Like, there's certain things and stuff and everything that I agree with. But like, and stuff and everything. Like, for me, I see like and stuff directly how their policies and stuff and everything affect the African American community, and they're harmful to them. And like I see like and stuff you're saying like about like I guess they're theoretical propose like ideas and stuff and everything, but like some of the people like even looking at their history and like what they've done, doesn't like and stuff instill confidence in me, like and stuff and everything, like even more so. For instance, we're talking about Andrew Yang and stuff and everything, like, that's somebody who doesn't have like, a history in government. So like, I like a lot of the things that he has to say. I think that, the idea of universal basic income makes a lot of sense and stuff and everything, but like, will it really help the African American community? I'm not sold on that because like, and stuff and everything, he has this idea of universal basic income, but if you're already collecting like and stuff food stamps, if you're already on like government assistance like Section 8 and stuff and everything, but you wouldn't.
UBI is not like the Democratic platform. Like most Democrats aren't running on UBI. That's 2% of the electorate maybe supports that.
No, but I'm saying like about like I like Andrew Yang. I like the idea and the concept of it, but like I feel like and stuff and everything. Like I wonder like who is this program going to really benefit? Like, I think it will benefit, like, a lot of people. Like, I would benefit from the extra $1,000 a month, but like,
so what about a program like Bernie's Wealth Tax, where he's straight up going after the top less than 1% of the country, taking their money and essentially helping redistribute it to
like okay, see, I like Bernie Sanders. I like a lot of his rhetoric, and I think like and stuff, the issues that he raises are very important. Like he's probably the only politician and stuff, everything I've heard this election speak about like the issue of wealth disparity. But I don't think that's fair. Like I do believe like, like companies like Amazon should be paying taxes. Like, of course, like, they shouldn't be paying 0% in taxes, but like, and stuff, everything to go like exorbitantly. And like, it seems like he just wants to redistribute the wealth in this country. I don't think like, and stuff that's fair. Like, people should pay their fair share.
But that's what I mean. Like, it hasn't been fair ever. Like, you have a company that's literally not paying taxes that's grossing the most profit in the world.
But I don't think that's fair either. But like, I think that's why Bernie Sanders is important. Like, and stuff, everything. Like, I think his voice is important, but like, I'm not in agreement. Like, necessarily, I don't agree. Like, in either.
Okay, so let me start there. So I agree. Yeah. I think that's where most people follow Bernie Sanders. That's a step or several steps too far. How many steps back do we need to go to get you on board? I guess that's where I'm trying to figure out. It's like, cool, we can all agree that like continuing to enable companies like Amazon and Walmart and all of like the biggest players in the world to just run up exorbitant amounts of money on the backs of workers like people in our communities is a bad thing. Trump objectively is continuing that trend, if for no other reason than to create jobs, because Amazon will continue to create jobs and so will Walmart of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So like, where is the in-between that you land on that's like making these people pay taxes that you don't feel like is somehow like it is a wealth redistribution, because the same people have collected all of the wealth for all of the time. Like, anything that would be anything fairer than that is going to be a wealth redistribution. Why is that? Like, how much wealth should we redistribute into who? I guess
I think that's basically like and stuff. That's stealing. Like and stuff, everything. You're basically advocating for slavery. Like and stuff, everything. The way you've explained that. Like and stuff, everything. I've worked for this money, and you want to like take it and give it to other people.
You think it's similar to slavery to take somebody who has $14 billion and say, "Hey, my man, that's a bit much. On the top $4 billion, do you mind if we, I don't know, tax you this time?" That's slavery in your opinion.
It is, because this money, like if it was you, that is, because it's like you work. You worked for this money, you created it, like you and me and stuff and everything. Nobody else, like you and me and stuff and everything, had a part in it. And you're saying
a lot of other people had a part in it. That's the point. You're gonna tell me Amazon, like Jeff Bezos, just makes that money solo?
I mean, like he created the business, he created the company. Like,
right. That also creates jobs that pay people so little that they have to take these government assistance programs that you're against.
I don't think anybody at Amazon is probably on a government assistance program. Amazon pays very well. I doubt it. I doubt it very much that anybody like who works at Amazon is on a government assistance program. I doubt it. Seriously.
I highly recommend you Google that sometime.
Oh yeah, I will. Like,
what about Walmart? Do you think people at Walmart?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Walmart, like, of course they should. Like, you know what I mean, and stuff and everything. I'm not.
Should the Waltons just be able to continue collecting all the revenue of Walmart, even though the people in their company actually have to take money out of the government for them to be able to survive? They shouldn't be able to pay back into the government.
My idea isn't that they shouldn't pay taxes and stuff and everything. What I'm saying is that
you literally just said taxing their wealth would be akin to slavery.
No. I'm saying, like, you know what I mean, and stuff. That's not what I said.
I asked you if that's what you said. You said yes.
No.
Did I? Am I wrong on that? Okay.
No, like so I said, like, you know what I mean, and stuff and everything. The way you're saying, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, for them to be taxed is akin to slavery. Like, if you're going to tax, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, these companies at 60%, like, you know what I mean, and stuff and everything, like Amazon and stuff and everything.
It's not taxing these companies at 60%. It's taxing these companies.
Isn't that what Bernie Sanders, like, as far as like I understand?
That was a proposal made by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The idea of a 60% wealth tax was on individuals who are making over $10 million per year, taxing anything above that $10 million at 60%. Everything up to that $10 million will remain exactly the same. And in fact, under some proposals, including Bernie Sanders, it may go down a bit. So yes, if you individually make more than $10 million a year, your taxes might go up on the rest of that money. Just like they do if you make over $250,000 a year, they go up once you go up a tax bracket. They go up and down depending on where you land, because there's some advantages in the middle for small business owners, right? Like, that's how the tax bracket works. You pay 12% if you make shit money. You get all of it back if you make below the poverty line, if you know how to file it correctly. And it goes up and up and up as you make more and more money. We all agree on that, right? We can't just add another bracket at the top that says if you make an exorbitant amount of money, so much so that literally nobody would know what to do with this much fucking money, that we can take a little bit of that back and fund, like, schools. That's slavery.
Why are you like deciding, like, you and saying and stuff and everything, what to do with, like, you and saying other people's money, like, you and me and stuff and everything, because, like, you and me and stuff, you're basically saying, because, like, you and me and stuff, you've been so successful, we're going to punish you because of your success. Like, you and me and stuff and everything. I just don't think that sounds very fair to me.
So,
like, you and me and stuff and everything is like,
agree with the idea of taxes, though.
I do agree with, like, you and saying that,
because that's money I worked and made that the government is then taking from me and deciding what they want to do. Yes.
Yes, I do understand that.
So more taxes is slavery, but current taxes are fine.
I'm fine with the current tax system. I think, like, you and me and stuff and everything.
So taxes went up 1%.
Listen, I'm fine with the current tax system the way that it is, except for the fact that Amazon should be paying their fair share. I think Amazon companies like that, like you were saying, should be paying their fair share.
People like Jeff Bezos shouldn't pay their fair share.
Like, you know what I mean, and stuff and everything, like paying 60%. Like you were saying on additional income after, I'm not in agreement with that. I don't think that's fair.
Okay, so
I think, like, you mean everything
32%. How is that fair?
I do believe yes.
Is 40? Is 41? Like, where's the line?
I think anything over 33% is unfair.
How do you come to believe that then?
I'm basing that, like, you know what I mean, and stuff and everything on past, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, like, taxes, like, you know what I'm saying, done, like, different administrations.
I mean, so, like, different administrations has been as high as 90%, and that was still successful.
But I don't think that was fair. Like, you know what I'm saying, I think, like,
that was the most successful period in American history.
What period is this?
During the New Deal.
Like, you and me and stuff and everything. I'd have to research that, but, like, I'm.
You don't have to research. I'm telling you, that's a certified fact. Under FDR, the highest marginal tax rate went up as high as 90%, and that was the most successful period in American history. But you're dead set on 33 being the highest.
Why are you saying that's the most successful period in American history? What makes it the most successful period?
The highest rate of job growth, the highest rate of GDP growth, the highest rate of home ownership, the highest rate of expansion across the country of public programs. The expansion of public education. What part of the New Deal was bad?
I'm not saying, like, necessarily that it was bad.
Sorry,
like,
what part was better?
Like, you know what I mean? I just, like, you know what I mean, and stuff necessarily, I don't agree with, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like, from, like,
I guess you don't agree. I'm trying to figure out why, because it doesn't make sense to me. What you're saying is you're fixed on 33% as, like, the highest we should ever tax anybody at. I'm saying, how did you come to that number? What you told me was because of past administrations. A past administration, it's been high as 90. Also, for what it's worth, it's been as low as in the 20s. Right. So how do we settle on 33 being the only number it can be at?
I think that's a fair number. Right. I think, like, you mean, and so everything, like, you mean,
you said it's important to have people like Bernie in the conversation. Bernie, not Bernie. Alexander Ocasio-Cortez thinks 60% is a fair number. You think 33% is a fair number. I, for instance, as somebody somewhere in between the two of you, think somewhere around 42 to 49. I think it's important to stay under 50 because I agree with you. Taking most of my money seems wrong. Taking 49% of a gross amount of money that I already have seems a little edgy. So, like, 42, 45, that all works for me. You're saying that'd be slavery.
It is basically because, like, you know what I mean, so you're taking like,
I'm taking something you fundamentally believe in that has changed over the course of history numerous times and sliding it 6 to 8% upwards, and you're telling me I'm enslaving people.
It's I'm saying it's 60%. It's slavery, like, you know what I mean, and stuff. 6%, like, you know what I mean, and stuff. That's a small, like, you know what I'm saying, increase.
That's 40%.
Like, yeah, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. But I think, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, it's fair around, like, 30%, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. That's where I think, like, you know what I'm saying, it's fair. Like, that's where it sounds like fair, like, to me, like, you know what I mean, as far as, like, you know what I mean, on my personal, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, looking at, like, the numbers, it just makes sense to me. Like, you know what I mean, and stuff, I can't say, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like, that's right, or, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, that is wrong. I know, like, 60% sounds like, you know what I mean, why aren't you for 60%? If you're saying, like, you know what I mean, and stuff,
because I agree with you. I think my personal stance on it is I think nobody's income should be taxed more. Like, a majority of your income should not go to taxes. Like, you should take home more than you pay in taxes. So I don't think you should pay any more than 49% in taxes across the board. That seems fair. I think we can both agree on that. I think we can both agree that people like Jeff Bezos and the Walton family should pay taxes. If we're not going to if we're not going to tax their businesses, let's tax their wealth then, because they're going to claim dividends on that.
But see, I'm for taxing their businesses. Like, I don't think, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, that they should not be paying any taxes. Like,
so if you're for taxing their businesses, why are you voting for Trump, who has avowed not to tax their businesses?
That's not why I'm voting for Trump, though. Like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like, that has nothing to do, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything.
Right, things you told me the reason you're voting for Trump is because he's helping the black community.
Not because
his policies. Help me out here.
His policies are helping the African American community by creating jobs, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. Like, for instance,
fair. I'm just going to step that face out. I'm just trying to weigh these things out. His policies are creating jobs for black people and are helping the black community. I would argue at least Pete Buttigieg, several other candidates have a good plan to do exactly that on the Democratic side. We're 1-1. What else are you voting for Trump for?
I also believe that Trump, like, you and me, there's job creation. I feel like, you and me, and stuff, the country is, like, you and me, and stuff, at the healthiest economically that it's been, like, you and me, and stuff, everything. Like,
95% of economists predict we're going into a recession in the next 2 years. I wouldn't say it's the healthiest economy.
Like, you and me,
and I think we will get into Trump, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. I think going back, I want to give the ball back to you in your report too. Is the question was, what does it take you to cross that? I think because
that's what I'm trying to get to.
We digressed a little bit with some of the time. What would it take for you to cross out? Because I think you've answered that, right?
I mean, it would take, like, Tulsi Gabbard probably winning the nomination. Like, that's pretty much, like, the only, like, you know, Democratic candidate that I could really take serious. Like, I think there's a lot of other Democratic candidates that I like them. Like, I like their rhetoric. Like, I like Cory Booker. Like, you know, I think, like, you and me, and everything. Like, I like his story, his backstory, and, like, some of the things he say. But, like, I'm not in agreement with, like, some of his policies, and then, like, also his track record. You know, like, you know, Kamala Harris, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. Like, when you look at, like, her track record and stuff, everything, like, you know, I'm not impressed by that. So, like, you know, I mean, and stuff, everything, things and stuff of that nature, I'm just not in agreement, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything with socialist policies. I like the idea of universal, like, healthcare. It sounds great, but, like, you know what I mean, so if you look at a country like Canada and stuff, everything, and, like, they have these long wait times where you have to wait, like, 3 months to see a doctor, like, you and me, and stuff, that makes me concerned and stuff, everything about, like, you and me, and stuff, everything, like, being able to pay for it because it doesn't seem fiscally responsible.
So we'll button that one real quick. Let me start it.
Let me, thank you guys. Let me restart it as well.
No, it's
Yeah.
good.
So restrooms are right around the corner. Take your time. Do you want to use restroom this one?
I'm okay.
I was expecting that to be about 10 minutes. Very good
I
guess.
better use it.
That's okay. Yeah, there's only one when he comes back to you. How are you feeling? Doing all right?
Good. Yeah, I feel
Okay,
good.
good.
Fun times.
All right. Let me go like this.